Hello, my loves. I wanted to share something with you that was a really powerful channeled message and transmission that came through from my team Alight, really explaining the concept so our humanness can understand what it truly means disconnecting from linear time. And they came through with a really perfect way of explaining it and a wonderful way for our humanness to understand of how we're interpreting linear time and how to interpret from that higher dimension of reality, from like 5D and above. And this is really important because we're needing to understand the constructs of time, because if we're wanting to shift into a new earth, if we're wanting to shift out of 4D into 5D, we need to understand how time actually truly works. And this is a really important concept to understand, because I feel that, shadow work, healing work, inner child connection, past life healing, it can feel very abstract when you are still very tied to linear time, because it's almost as though, how can this be so relevant in the now if that was in the past? And that is where I find having a little bit of an understanding of the constructs of time in the way of the quantum field rather than linear time means that narrative of why is it even important has no purpose here, because you see truth, you see the deception of which that past is past and it has no relevance to the now or to the future. And so this is where I think it can be really helpful of understanding why the pathway of integration, alchemization is so powerful, and how that truly affects the past, present and future. When we say, many people say that when you heal 7 generations back and forward. And these sort of concepts, when you're talking about frameworks that are not attached to linear time, for people who are still very much do not even understand what it truly means to detach from linear time, these feel super abstract to them. It almost feels like unattainable, almost a little bit too airy-fairy, like, I think you're a little bit, So I think having this really epic way of which that I just received this download as I was walking in the forest of how to explain it in a way of people who are very attached to the old, almost makes it more like, easier to kind of communicate from my perspective, for me to be able to communicate to that, and for other people to digest this information. So what came through around a beautiful description is, so if you think about linear time, way that our mind tends to construct it. So this sort of human consciousness, the ego consciousness, like to construct everything in a way that's attached to physical reality. And this is why it feels very hard for our mind to construct an ideology outside of physical reality, because we just seem to do a very repeated pattern. So what our mind tends to imagine if you look at time, is it imagines that it's almost like a scale of bottom up, like going upwards, and as though that down is the past. And if you imagine that you put something on top of that, and that's the present, so the present is covering the past, and then on top of the present is the future. And this is sort of how our mind tends to construct time, as though it is moving, that is the start, and it's moving forward all that way. And you're almost imagining that the past is hidden. When our mind tends to, and it may not be on a conscious level, but your mind is constructing it as though the past is hidden and the present is covering the past. So the past is not relevant because it's hidden. And yet the future isn't also sometimes to our mind relevant because it is not present. And it is also somewhat hidden, but even the future is going to hide the past. And so we almost imagine it as though, or even this way. And when we always look at that framework of the scale that goes up, we already attach so much meaning to it. Our sort of conscious mind, our human avatar, tends to attach a lot of meaning to how these are framed because they've been used purposefully. And so we almost imagine that down is bad. for some reason. And this is just in a very much an attachment that you imagine, which is why people reject the scale of emotions have frequencies. And, you know, because if you see it lower frequency and high frequency, you automatically don't realize that you attached lower to bad. It is just what is. It is neither good nor bad, just what is. Different frequencies, lower frequencies, it doesn't always mean it's bad. It is just your interpretation of it. And this is where it's important to realize that your mind's constructing it on a sort of linear framework and linear time. You're constructing it as though that's the past, that's bad. We're just gonna, no, it's not seen, it's hidden. And so, if we step out of this framework of it being below, present, future, and that it's always covering the past, and you imagine yourself standing. Imagine yourself standing. And this is how I explain time outside of the constructs of linear time. If you are standing and you imagine either side of you is a mirror, what happens when you are standing and you have two mirrors opposite each other, looking towards each other, and you are in the middle, is you have endless versions of you. It is the prison mirror effect. So what you would look to your right, you would see endless versions of you. You would look to your left, you would see endless versions of you. And all of those endless versions that are stacked along the side, these are all, when we talk about timelines, they're different timelines. So each action that you're making is you're stepping into that different version of you, because how we were talking, how many people in the spiritual community talk about that every action creates a different version and that there is endless possibilities of you in the quantum field. It is this mirror prism effect where it is endless versions. You're all walking forward at the same time. And so what you're doing when you're quantum leaping, when you're jumping timelines, you're jumping into a different version and you're all walking forward at the same time. And if you imagine that all these different timelines, all these different versions are side by side, neither is start nor finish, but just is, all happening at the one moment. And you're all walking forward at the one moment, and you have the ability to shift into a different quantum pathway at every single moment. And the more that you internally shift, maybe the bigger the jump, whereas just small decisions make a jump that is of no register within our consciousness. And we do not register the tiny little changes. We register the bigger ones. So when we're really stepping onto a different version that's on a much bigger scale, much bigger of a jump, that's when we really notice. So you notice that the frequency shifted. And I thought that this is such a perfect way of identifying how we truly can connect to past and past, present, future. I don't know why I stumbled on that word. I think because I was framing it in the wrong way, and they're like, we're not going to make you speak because you're about to say it in the wrong way. This is why you can connect to any version of you. Thank you. Thank you, angels and team of light. Because this is the power of connecting to that inner child. If you imagine that they are just a part of that mirror effect and that they are walking forward at the exact same time in the quantum field. So when you zoom out and you look at from the quantum field, you see all of these versions. And this is why the power of connecting to your inner child, the power of connecting to past life healing, even just past versions of us, where we have to heal, we have to alchemize, we have to grieve, we have to receive them with love, is because in the quantum field, from a zoomed out higher perspective, from a 5D perspective, they are all living within the field at the same time. They're all moving forward at the same time. It is not linear. It is almost that it is happening on every level and every diagonal frame, and they're all just moving forward as one. And this is how I feel is such an easier way for our conscious mind to understand all versions and what it truly means to quantum leap and what's truly happening and what it could look like from a grid perspective, and also the power of the healing. Because even with the concept and the idea of framing it in a way that you can understand of the mirror prism effect where you're seeing all versions, if you go beyond just that sort of imagery, and what I see, because I work a lot with energetic cords, because in my work I do a lot of healing different versions. I do a lot of alchemization. It's really about self-love is what I do. It's about reconnecting with the parts of self that we have felt disconnected from, alchemizing and expressing your divine essence. And so energetic cords is something that's really prominent in my work, because that's all into play and we're healing energetic cords. So, but on the mirror prism effect, what is really important to understand is energetic cords and how they truly look and what's real. So what I see is like strings of light coming off someone's physical body, and it is just like a web, and it is connecting us to every one of these versions. And it's also connecting us to past life versions, and it's also connecting us into everyone that has been in our worlds. So we all have these energetic cords. It's too overwhelming I don't see them all at once. That's like, I wouldn't be able to see anything else. It'd be just like light everywhere. But that's how I see it. I see, because I focus in on one, and I see it as a string of light. And because there is no disconnection, that's an illusion. We are all connected. And so if you imagine that mirror prism effect where they're just all running along endless possibilities, they are also all connected by these strings of energy, and that information is being fed back and forth continuously at every moment. We are very much on a soul level aware of every version. We're aware of every past life version. We're aware of the woundings that we have yet to heal from. And this is just having this awareness is so powerful within yourself of reclaiming your power, because when you realize how you are so vastly interwebly connected quantumly with everything and everyone, that is when you get to really see on a quantum level of how much you are feeding your energy, and that is taking your energy to maybe past versions of self that have had trauma, and you have yet to fully grieve it and fully heal that energetic cord to that version. Or maybe to a past life where there was persecution, or you abused your power, because some people have done that. They have connected to their power but then used it in ways that was not in the greatest good. And in understanding that energetic cord tie to that version and knowing how to work in order to heal that cord so that it can be neutralized, so you're not continuously having that energy fed back and forth, is actually calling your power back into you. It is not losing some of that light to this wounded energetic cord tie. And also understanding that everyone that you have met, there is also that core, I'm saying the same words over again, it's making me stumble. This energy cord of light that is attached to everyone, it is understanding that is so powerful, because every time you feel human emotions, that is energy. And so especially if it's someone who is maybe that you have decided to disconnect from because they were not in service of your greatest good to be in connection, if you are still somewhat sending emotional energy in the sense of feeling emotions, maybe feeling worry about them, feeling, anger, sadness, grief, whatever the human emotion is, if you're somewhat still feeling that about that individual, you are still sending that energy through that cord of light, and it is still being fed back and forth. And this is why we have visions or like someone that's from our past that we've not thought about in a very long time pop into our mind randomly, it may be that they're thinking about you. And so you're getting their energy, and so their image or their name or something just pops into your mind randomly from nowhere. It's probably because they're thinking about you. And this is how we are all connected, but there is so much power in knowing how to ensure that you are not just feeding your energy in the way that's so draining. Because then when you're sort of neutralizing cords, especially for those that have been abusive to you, it's very powerful work to neutralize those energetic cords, because then they're also not having thoughts about you, and it just helps that further disconnection. Even though we're not fully disconnected, it just helps the distance to keep them out of your energetic field, out of your auric field, so they cannot invade your space and that you can live a more peaceful life. Whew, I feel like that was a mouthful. So my love, I hope this was really helpful, because to me, I felt like this was a great explanation of really understanding how, from a quantum view, time truly works, and how the endless possibilities of us, and what it truly means to quantum leap is you're just stepping into the other version that is on a timeline and trajectory that was different to where you were aligned with, how you were walking forward, what you were aligned with. When you create a massive shift and change within your energy, you create different actions. The actions is what shifts you into the different version. And I thought that was so powerful to really explain, because I feel like it creates less of the dissonance and sort of disillusion of why there is any desire to revisit past or alchemize or heal, or the power of connecting to your inner child that is just as real and as live as you are in the field in this moment, and to connect to their energy. That is deeply healing, because they are the pathway, being connected to them in order to move with love in this life. Good, juicy stuff, my love. I hope that this was really helpful and that you understood and I didn't ramble too much. And let me know if this helps you in understanding time outside of linear perspective, linear reality and dimensions. And I would love to hear your thoughts or your interpretation, your ways of explaining from a quantum perspective time. And I thank you for being here and for listening, and I send you love.